Welcome to today's webinar, Enhance Your Operating Expense Planning with Support Details Using Vena Solutions. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. My name is Kimberly Fellman. I'm a marketing coordinator at JMT Consulting, and I'll be your moderator today. I'm excited to be hosting this webinar along with Lucy Brennan, who is a project consultant here at JMT. And before I hand it over to Lucy, I'm going to quickly cover some housekeeping items. First, we are recording this webinar and we will email you a copy of the audio and video form in recording format within 24 hours. Second, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A tab at the bottom of your control panel. I will be monitoring the Q&A and we'll answer your questions as they come in. And we will also run a live Q&A with Lucy at the end of the webinar as well. So there's plenty of opportunities to get your questions answered. And after the webinar today, you'll be hearing from my colleague, Megan Mendiola, to hear your thoughts on what you see today. So with all that, I'll hand it over to Lucy to get us started. Over to you, Lucy.
Thanks, Kim. My name is Lucy Brennan. As Kim said, I'm a project consultant at JMT, and I've been here for a couple of years. And I'm going to talk to you about using the Vena product for, for Opex planning. Opex planning is really, about budgeting your expenses. And what I'm going to be showing you is the contributor experience as well as a little bit of the manager experience. So if you can see my screen now, I've got Vena open, and it's set up with your user, with your email address. That's your user ID, and you can use it on any popular browser from anywhere in the world that you have an internet connection. The only other preparation you would need is to download a small Excel plugin, and you can get it from Vena. Once you log in the first time, you can download that. And what that does is you'll see the next time after you download that plugin, the next time you open Excel, you'll see a Vena menu option at the top of your Excel workbook. And what that does is that allows a connection between your local Excel and Vena. It leverages all your input for running reports and so you can do all your work in Excel. And then it links back to the Vena Cloud database for real-time changes. So when someone else can see your changes, and you can also have your changes flowing right into the same report within Excel. So here's the Vena login. Once you log in, I'm just going to log in here. Once you log in, you'll see pretty much this exact screen. And this particular login is set up with both a contributor and manager role. There are two other roles in Vena. One is admin. Admin sets up users and assigns roles. Users can have multiple roles assigned. The other role that you don't see on here is modeler, and modeler sets up dimensions or segments, scenarios, the currency that you're using, that type of thing. But we're going to start with the contributor role. So when I click on contributor, this is pretty much what you're going to see, what anyone would see when they log into the contributor tab portion. It kind of looks like a to-do list, which is exactly what it is. You can see I have something overdue. And then the blue part would be your to-do items. And this would, represent any of the tasks that might be on your plate. It's broken out based on what you need to accomplish within, say, a budget workflow. So you may see, other things. Here I have the Opex input, which we're going to look at in a minute, and some other things. You also have items that are coming soon, and these are tasks that are not yet on your plate, but there's something, and they might not be on your plate because something else needs to happen. Maybe somebody else needs to contribute something before you can add your values. But you visibility so you can see or begin planning your process and plan out your schedule for the future. Maybe you might need to block off some time to work on some of these items if you know they're coming already. At the bottom, you'll see a view-only section. That can be made up of a couple of different things. You might see some financial reports or dashboards there. Whenever you make a submission from one of your to-do items, you will see those submissions there. So we're going to go ahead and look at the Opex Planning, the input sheet. When I click on that, this sideboard opens, and the first thing you'll see is the details. That's the Opex Planning, the Excel workbook there. There might be under, you'll see a couple of tabs here, instructions. Those might be instructions left by the manager for whoever set up the process. They might leave some information that you should keep in mind as you go through the budgeting and planning exercise. There's also a supporting documents tab that might have, additional instructions, step-by-step guides. You could attach, contracts, any, large documents, PDFs, things like that. You can click on these and download them as many times as you want. There's also a comments tab down here. It's almost like a news feed so that numerous people can leave comments for each other, and they're seen by anybody who has access to this particular workflow. You can also leave attachments there, and so that you can download them and open them. The one thing that I want to notice, we're going to go back to the details tab. So this is the Opex Planning input form that we're going to work with, and notice it has a checkout here. That's so that we can check it out into Excel, and so we can put in our budget values or what have you. It'll prompt you when you click on it, it'll prompt you as if you're opening an Excel file from anywhere on the internet. Same process, as if you were opening an attachment from an email or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and click it, so you'll see it popped up over here on my lower left for me to open it. Since I clicked check in, you'll notice that that changed, or since I clicked check out, you'll notice that changed to check in. And that's so that no one else can work on the file while you have it checked out. So otherwise, when values are being entered, in there with numerous people have access, it'll create a conflict as far as version, which is the latest and greatest. So in other words, while you're working on the budget, no one else can work on it. So there allows for a single record of truth. So let me open up the Excel file here. I'm just going to click on it. Give it a minute to open. And I'm going to click on Enable Content here. And you'll see in the background you have the framework going for this template, and it was talking to Vena. And this part really shows the power that Vena brings to the table, because it allows you to choose what data you want to work on at a given time. We have the entity, department, year, all specific in scenarios, all specific to your organization. I'm going to leave it on New York, but you could toggle to whatever entity you want to do. All of these options would be specific to your organization and your user access. You can also, I just want to point out under scenario, we have it set to budget, but there are also other options you could add, like, what if some scenarios, forecast, things like that. But we're going to stick with budget today. And I'm going to click OK. And it's going to talk to Vena and pull in the existing data that's in there. So it's filling in the format based on what or whatever user selected. In this case, I selected New York, and then the other selections that I made, it automatically filled in that information for me. If I go in, a lot of this is Excel based here, so if I go in and delete some numbers, oops, let me click Enable Content here. If I go in and delete some numbers, see, it's not letting me do that. Oh, because I had that selected. Give me 1 second. If I go in and delete these numbers and then click Refresh, it's going to pull them back in. Do you see what it's? So it's connecting to the cloud. It's still Excel. It's using Excel as an access point into the underlying Vena Cloud database. So once here, the data entry is very similar to what you probably already know using Excel in the past. I can put in some values, for example, here I could, maybe I want it says 10,000 here, maybe we're going to reduce it down to 5,000. I can drag it across to all my months here, similar to what you do for in regular Excel. Another option you can do in an Opex planning sheet, we can design them so that, for example, in this promotion section, here we have some events or promotions that they're working on. I could insert another one. Let's say we're going to have a gala or something like that. Oops, if I could type properly. And then add my fields, add the detail for that gala. And that would all, if I put in, I don't know, 5,000 here, and that's maybe some deposit money or something like that, but then the gala is going to happen here, something like that. Notice that's all, those entries that I made are rolling up into this top level for promotions. Okay. The other options too would be maybe like, down here under office equipment, you could, break it out by vendors as well. It's really customizable to your organization. So, and I just want to also point out that anything in blue here can be editable, this gray stuff, because, if you'll notice, this column header is for actual, so I can't edit that. But any of these blue items I can edit. I can also add comments over here for that gala that I put in for 250,000, it could be annual gala, something like that. These are all budget numbers. One thing you can do is this particular Opex planning document also has, this is all budget that we're looking at here. I could expand this, and so now we have actuals with the budget over here on the right. So, and once we have actuals, you notice these are all These aren't blue, so I can't edit those because those are coming in. Those are actual numbers that are coming in. But I can drill down to them to see the underlying, the real transaction detail. Let's say for, like this advertising in January. I could drill into that and see transactions, and it'll open another sheet, similar to what it does if you're familiar with pivot tables. So it's showing me all the data that was in there that came over from actuals. These are invoices that make up those actual numbers in this Opex planning sheet. And so that's really a helpful thing, because traditionally you've had to reach out to finance to get this information or have somebody pull it for you, and you had to wait, email them, go through all that. And now you don't have to do that anymore. It pulls it, you can pull it right from the Vena cloud database. So it essentially shows you the detail that you would have had in your system associated with a transaction. Another thing that you can do with this Opex planning, the way this Opex planning, I'm going to minimize this for a second, with this Opex planning is that, say someone else on your team has access to this and you want to see who's been in it and made changes. Another option you can do is this drill saves. It's talking to Vena there. And so this is showing everyone that's been in the Opex planning sheet. It shows who has made the changes to what cell and the values that they changed. This runs in perpetuity, so you'll always have this audit trail to track who's modified what at any given time. It gives you the visibility as to who's changing what numbers. But what if you don't know what's changed? There's another option for that. So let's say this 5,000, I want to know, or maybe I just don't know what's changed. So I could use the audit trail for that. When I click on that, let me make it a little bit bigger here. It gives you a similar view as the drill save option, but this is going to tell you who's been in the template, but also what combinations they've worked on. Example, New York, Department 10, budget. But what if you wanted to look to see what it looked like from one version compared to another? What you could do is, let's select this one, and maybe we'll select mine from down here. Actually, I selected the wrong way. And then I can click this compare button here. So now it's pulling data for me, and it's going to create a comparison between the two versions, showing the changes that were made. If I go to the Opex planning, this is the new Opex planning, you can see that all these cells are highlighted. And if I hover over one, that's the one that I changed just a minute ago. I had changed it from 10,000 to 5,000. This one, changed from that very large number to 1,500. It even tracks the comment changes that were made. Oops, you can't see it. The comment changes, it didn't have one. Now it's got a new formula in there. So you can easily track back and see who was in the system and what changes were made. So I'm going to close this. It opened actually 2 new workbooks. So I'm going to close this one, not save it, and one as well. So now we're back to the original. It's taking it a second to catch up here. There we go. Okay. So some more things that you can do with the data entry piece. You can also add drivers. So if I expand this, we've got some drivers built into this one here. So maybe, you know, like on this one, dues and subscription, looks like they've got it set for a head count. So you could, you know, enter your head count in there and it will allocate it across based on the head count. You know, you could also, there's some other options in here. You can allocate things quarterly, evenly across the 12 months. You can use prior year. You can do it as a percentage of revenue, like this one is, or head count. For example, if I change this to 150, you'll see the number changed quite a bit there because I did that. Okay. And again, you could also, you know, like I said, you could do, you know, evenly. Oops, I meant to pick evenly, or I meant to pick even there, and it would allocate it evenly across 12 months. Now, another thing that I think organizations really like is this travel expense. Often that's made up of, you know, multiple, you know, meetings and conferences that your staff might be attending. Notice this is white, so I can't make any entries into it. That's because it's pulling from this supplemental tab here. So I'm going to enter on this supplemental tab. That's also a supporting tab. You could have any number of these different tabs and structure in a way that makes sense for your organization. This one happens to be just for travel, but it allows you the flexibility to provide the detail as to what makes up that travel number. So what I could do is, you know, add a line here. I'm just going to click down here and click Insert. It's going to add a row, and I can type in the, you know, event name. Let's pick on that gala again, and I could say I'm going, and you know, you can pick. This one just happens to be set up with a from and to location. Yours may not. Let's say I'm going from San Francisco to, I don't know, Montreal. I'm going to be there 5 nights. So, I'm going to need a rental car, my airfare, my lodging, meals per day, maybe some entertainment. And here again, I can select how I want this to be allocated. Maybe I know exactly what month that's going to be happening, or maybe I don't know. So maybe I want it to be allocated evenly across the months, or I know it's going to happen sometime in the first quarter. I'm just not sure when, something like that. I could just select first quarter, and it puts it in this budget line, this budget section over here. So it just went into the first quarter. If I change that to, let's say maybe I know it's going to happen in January, I want you to notice that it's going to change the visuals we have built into this also. I'm going to select January, and notice it increased my January numbers for me. Again, none of this, I can't update any of this because it's pulling from this piece. And then this total number is feeding back over to the Opex Planning sheet right here. There's that 8631 that that we updated on the supporting tab. So, like I said, you could have any number of supporting tabs, just, depending on what makes sense to your organization. So once I've made all my entries into my Opex planning sheet, then we're ready to close it and check it back in. So it's real simple to do. I'm going to just close it, and it's reminding me that it's controlled by Vena, and do I want to save data to the database? I'm going to say yes. So it's talking to Vena, and it's giving me, there's a threshold on this particular workbook that for 20%, but mine exceeded. I'm going to go ahead and save it, yes. Because I might want to check it out later. Maybe I'm not done. And do I want to check in this file? Yes. So now we're back in Vena, and notice that Opex planning sheet is back to check out because I checked it back in for them. So one thing I just wanted to point out is that, like I said, there's some financial at the bottom of this contributor tab here. You have your to-do list, your coming soon, and view only. Those financial reports down there are, they're whatever reports that were created by your system administrators and would be available here, and you can run them anytime you need to. Keep in mind that if you're viewing a report and someone else has access and changes some values in it, as soon as they save and you click refresh, you'll have an updated value in your report. So there's no need to manually move anything between two different files. You just click refresh. So if I click the financial statement report, let's see their view only here. And I don't have to check it out. I'm just viewing it. It's talking to Excel right now. Same kind of thing. I can make my selections here. These would be, whatever is makes sense to your organization. I can click OK. This workbook has errors in it. So I could, view my reports. Notice it's all in white, so I can't make any changes to it. There's the balance sheet, cash flow. They're all in the same workbook. And so these reports, in this particular workbook, we have, the statement of activities, balance sheet, and cash flow. But, you can have whatever makes sense for your organization in here. You might have a report that includes statistical data as well. It might, for head count or other metrics like patient visits, those sort of things. So that's a kind of a high-level view of the end user for Vena and how the process works for an Opex planning sheet. As far as the process, so it's really, like I said earlier, it's really easy to get comfortable with it, because if you know Excel at all, 70% of what you need to leverage Vena at that point. And I'll tell you a little secret. I've only personally been using Vena for about a month and a half, and I've done all of this. So I just wanted to point that out to you, that's how easy it is. That's the contributor experience and how that would be working for a Opex planning sheet. We went through checking out the Opex planning sheet and checking it back in, and some of the details in that planning sheet that you can use to leverage your input there. I'm going to now show you what it looks like as a manager. Managers, if I click on the Manager tab up here, managers have the ability to, build the budget process right in here. When I click on that, you're going to see this is a budget process. And you can see there's a start and an end, and all these steps in between that, take place. And each box here represents a step that happens. Each step can have individual staffs associated with them. The steps can involve reports, inputs, Opex planning sheets, for example, approvals and or rejections. That's what this is right here. It's going to go from personnel input to the executive approval, or they can send it back. Excuse me. This is custom built to what makes sense for your organization. You can also set due dates on these, and you can see what template you've associated with the step in the process. It looks just like, if I double click on, let's see, this. So this looks very similar to the contributor tab when you selected one of your to-do items. You can see here's where, the users are assigned to it and the template that's assigned to it. Here's where the manager would put in the instructions and attach anything to it. Here's where they would put in all the supporting documents that the contributor will see and be able to download on the other end. Excuse me. So these kind of green boxes represent approval levels. So managers and approvers can approve, they can add content, they can reject. This is sort of an automated process. Contributor submits, approver gets an email notification, approver reviews, and an automated email is sent. So there's no need to manually send an email out in addition to doing all this work. That this can be built out to be as simple or as complex as your organization needs it to be, and can be changed year over year as your organization grows and changes. It's pretty simple. Those notifications are really simple to, you just click on this bell and you can turn them on and off as you go. And so there's a lot of out-of-the-box functionality with this, for sure. One of the things that I think managers really like, the people that are building the process really like, especially after the process gets started. So I'm going to click on this gauge over here. That's a status tracker. This, shows, this is the manager view and shows them the status of the, let's say the budget creation process. That's where we are right here, the budget creation process. It gives them a calendar view. It also gives them a visual for how far along they are in the process. You can also see individual statuses at the see status of individual tasks at the bottom, so you can see who's been working on what, who hasn't even started. So you can see there's a tremendous amount of visibility within Vena already, sort of pre-built into the system. A lot of out-of-the-box functionality. There's a tremendous amount of visibility, and it's very difficult to do any of this with just Excel-based solutions. But with Vena, it can be easily leveraged for you. So I'm going to go back to the contributor, and that's about all I have. Does anybody have any questions, just based on what you've seen so far?
Thank you, Lucy. So we're now going to open it up to questions from you all. So please submit any through the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen, and we'll get them answered right away. So far, we have no questions, Lucy.
Okay.
They're going easy.
I can just point out that in the beginning of the session, I talked about
Or
downloading.
so. What's that?
Go ahead.
I said we can give it another minute or so and see if any questions come through, and if not, we can call it a day.
Okay. I was just going to point out, in the beginning, I mentioned that you needed to download an Excel add-in. It's pretty easy. The way you do it is you just go to your user ID, get add-in, download it. It's that easy.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, oh, we got a question. Does Vena integrate with many other ERP systems?
It does. There are several that integrates with. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but I do know it integrates with Intact. You can integrate with MIP, Intact, any of those.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is that if there's not a pre-built integration that's already set up, that you can still integrate with any software. It just depends on.
Yeah. It's super easy to do.
Great. All right. Well, that looks like all the questions we have for you today, Lucy, so we can wrap this. So thank you all for joining JMT Consulting for this webinar today. And we would love for you to join us at future webinars and events, which you can find listed on our website, jmtconsulting.com. And this will conclude our webinar.